The paternal side of Ty Cobb's family tree can be traced ultimately to Ireland, but it has deep roots in America and many tangled branches. One section, known within the clan as the Georgia Cobbs, produced Howell Cobb, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Secretary of the Treasury under James Buchanan, and Governor of his state, as well as his younger brother Thomas Reed Roots Cobb, a Confederate Major General. But William Herschel Cobb descended directly from a different and fairly distant line, which ran back into the hills of North Carolina. His people were more iconoclastic than their fancy Georgia kin, especially regarding the peculiar institution. W.H.'s grandfather, William Alfred Cobb, was a Methodist minister who tested the patience of his parishioners by preaching to Indians and whites alike, then pushed the congregation around the bend by preaching against slavery. In 1848, he and his family were run out of Haywood County for their abolitionist beliefs. They resettled in Union County, a more mountainous region where slaves, being less vital to the economy, were not such a hot-button issue. The one child of William A. Cobb whom we know much about, John Franklin Cobb, Ty's beloved Grandpa Johnny, was an anti-slavery Republican who joined Robert E. Lee's army when his state seceded, but failed to consistently report for duty. He seems to have exuded a palpable air of intelligence, a certain oracular presence, which conveyed to his Cherokee County neighbors that he was a man of principle, a conscientious objector rather than a common deserter. Indeed, by his middle years, John had become known as Squire Cobb for his service as an all-purpose sage and adjudicator of local disputes. Although not an educated man, he strongly believed in book learning, and made sure all 4 of his sons and both of his daughters went to college, at least for a while, an amazing feat of 19th-century parenting. His firstborn, Ty's father, W.H., got the furthest in school, taking a B.A. in liberal arts in 1892 from North Georgia Agricultural College in Dahlonega, the first coeducational college in the state. Although he was already a married man with 3 children and a full-time teaching job, W.H. graduated first in his class. In an unpublished family memoir, Ty's Aunt Nora remembered that as her older brother W.H. received his diploma, she felt her mother's tears splash upon her hand and saw her father run his finger around his collar to give the lump in his throat more room to dissolve. Amanda, wearing white satin with filmy lace like moonbeams around her neck, waited stage right to present her husband, whom she would shoot and kill one day, with a bouquet of budded roses. 6-year-old Ty, she said, slept through the ceremony. Ty Cobb's father was ambitious in the modern way, eager to better himself through education and willing to relocate. He was also religious in the modern way, which is to say, not terribly. Royston in general was not known as a particularly pious place. Although seeming unable to turn down any job involving blackboards and desks, he did serve as superintendent of the Baptist Sunday School. Like many in the post-war generation who took part in the Great Migration from family farm to city or town, he felt, well, a bit disoriented, no doubt, but also liberated from eons of ignorance. Said Cunningham, he lived before his time. W.H. had no interest in singing the same old hymns and making the same old mistakes until he expired in the bed where he'd been delivered. He was especially outspoken about race. History teaches that 3 systems of controlling the people have been tried: slavery, serfdom, and education, he said before a meeting of the Georgia Agricultural Society in 1901, and that the first 2 have been dismal failures. Like his father, he saw education as the key to individual and societal progress, and disdained Jim Crow brutality. He once turned up in a local hardware store where a small mob had gathered to discuss the lynching of a Negro then in the town jail, reminding them that they lived in a country of laws and that he would personally make sure they answered to those laws if they continued with their plotting. He sent his neighbors home grumbling. In the same speech he made to the state's most prominent farmers in '01, W.H. said, "As a way of teaching people to control themselves, schooling is the greatest political discovery of the ages. The slate and pencil are more efficient implements of true weal than the hangman's knock."